Can everyone hear me? If you can hear me, type yes in chat. We'll be waiting for a bit so that more people can join. When we get to 15 viewers, we're gonna start. Okay, so we're starting, guys. Wait.
Okay.
Or you just said.
Yeah. Okay, we're here. All right.
Can they hear us now, or?
Can everyone see? Can you hear us? There's a bit of background noise. Okay, let's start. Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to your first day of Introduction to Python. My name is Abe.
I'm Daniel.
I'm Vismay.
And I'm CEO Kanal.
Okay, when we also have Aditya moderating in chat. Can you say hi, Aditya, in chat? Well, there's a bit of a delay. There's like 20-second delay. So we'll start. I hope everyone is having a great spring break so far. I know that with the quarantine, it looks like we're gonna have spring break for the rest of the year practically. Um, and with all that free time that you're gonna have, it's good to use that time to get new skills like knowing how to code. And we're gonna be here for that today. So hopefully you can leave here today with new knowledge. And ultimately, my goal is to help you start your journey of learning to program. So let's get right into it. So this is day one, and here's our agenda for today. So we're going to be talking about what Python is. We're going to talk about Replit, which is the interpreter that we'll be using to program on. We'll be talking about commenting, the print function, operators, variables, and data types. And basically, you don't need to know anything for this class. We'll be covering everything. So what is Python? So Python is a high-level and general programming language, and it has a lot of use cases. For example, you can use it to make 2D games. For example, Geometry Dash is made in Python. It's also used to make AI. In fact, it's like the most commonly used language in that field. You can also use it to do web scraping, which is like if you so basically you can create a bot that scans the internet for the lowest prices for like commodities like toilet paper. I know that's quite in a lot of demand right now. So after this class, if any of you want to make that, it'd be really useful. You could also make a Discord bot, and we didn't talk about this yet. So make sure that if you want to ask us a question verbally, please join the Discord. The link is in the description. We'll be dragging people in if they have questions. So once you're in the Discord, if you have a question, join the questions voice channel.
And I'd like to add something about Python's uses. A lot of these can be combined, so you can combine like let's say you want to combine web scraping and the Discord bot, right? You can have a Discord bot that on command will give you let's say a random Reddit post or something from a certain subreddit, and that's web scraping. You can have a Discord bot that uses AI. You can combine like web scraping and games. You can create a game with AI. It's a lot of this. It's not just like Python can be used with multiple of these at the same time.
Yes.
It's all up to pretty much you.
And that's one of the most powerful things about Python. It's because it has such a large community that people make all different kinds of things with it. And you can essentially combine these things to make your own product. And it gives you a lot of freedom. And it's another huge bonus to it is it's easy to understand compared to other languages. And it looks more like English than Assembly. And Assembly is this really complex programming language. So our next slide. Why should you learn Python? First of all, it's very simple to use. The syntax is similar to other programming languages. So if you learn Python, then it's easy to learn other ones. So for example, if you learn Python, then it's easy to understand Java and C++. And when you guys get to high school, there's a class called AP Computer Science A, and in that class, they exclusively use Java. So learning Python would help you in the future when you take that class, if you take that class, which I hope all of you take. And it also gives you a bright future in fields like machine learning and artificial intelligence. That's just like what we're interested in, so we just put it on here. So what will you learn for today? We already talked about this. You'll be learning many features. This is throughout the course. You'll learn variables, operators, lists, conditional statements, loops. And our ultimate goal is to make tic-tac-toe. And by the end of this, each one of you will be able to make tic-tac-toe in Python. So, okay. It's incredibly annoying for us to help you download Python to your computer. It's going to take forever. So we decided that it would be better if we used Replit. And Replit is an online interpreter. So you can code online and you can run your code online using Replit. It's basically just Google Docs of programming, pretty much. So let me get a Replit right here. So here's the website, repl.id. So make sure you go here on your laptops, on your computers. And just tell me when you guys get there, so I know that we're all here. Oh wait, also Aditya, could you spam the link in the YouTube chat? Okay, so we're getting people here. Okay, so once you're here, what you want to do is you want to hit sign up, and then if you're all on YouTube, then you probably have a Google account. I don't know if you have a GitHub or Facebook account. Some of you might, but I don't think many of you do have one. Or you can make your own Repl account, but it's best just to use a Google account. So click the G, and it will open up this page where you just log in with Google. And let me just log in with my account. Oh yeah, we're getting lots of I'm here's. And once you're here, make sure you click New REPL. And basically, a REPL is where you'll be writing all your code in. So for the language, you want to pick Python because we're learning Python. And you can name this whatever. You can name it whatever. I don't know. And hit Create REPL. And it should open up this page. So you'll be writing all of your code here, and when you finish writing your code, you can click Run, and it will display it in the console. So this area is called the console. And let me just increase my text size so that you guys can see it. If you click the settings button over here, then you can change the size. Font size, I'll just do huge so that you guys can see it. And just to test it out, copy this code. And just tell me once you guys do this.
And by the way, this isn't just some random code. This is actually called a print function, and this will be essential
We'll be talking about this in a bit.
in a few minutes. Yeah.
And once you do this, just hit Run. And it should say Hello World over here. Are we here yet? I don't know what the delay on the stream is, but
Yeah, we might have to shorten the delay for the next stream.
yeah, we'll just have to deal with it for this one.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's about like 25 seconds or something.
Yeah.
Around 25. Yeah, okay, we got one I did it. Okay, we're getting a bunch of I did it. Okay, so okay, we're getting a lot of I did it. So time to go on to printing your first program. So who's doing this part again? Is it Siuk? You can take it away.
All right. So, hey everyone. So we're gonna talk about printing your first program. Now, the print function is used to display text into the console, which is shown in the stream on the right-hand side, that little black thing, right? Now, if you use print, open parenthesis, and then you can use either single quote or double quote, and then type any text you want. Close it with a single quote or double quote. Make sure you use the same one that you used before, and then close it with a closed parentheses. You can print numbers and other data types there as well, but you can't use quotes for these. Later, we'll talk about putting variables into here and stuff like that. But for now, you can look at this example that we have. What we told you to print was have Python print hello world into the console, right? If you look at the slides right now, you can see when you put hello world, hey, how are you, what's going on, it prints into the console without the quotation marks or the single quotes. All right. So if you type any of these into your replet and hit run, you'll see that it prints to the console. And basically, that's all you really need to know about the print function for now. Like I said, we'll talk about putting other stuff in there later. But make sure to remember, an important thing to remember is if you're typing in numbers and other data types, you can't use quotes for these. You have to just get rid of them. The only time you want to use it is for something we'll talk about later in the slides. The next thing that I want to talk about is commenting. And this is going to be pretty important because comments can be used when you're writing your own programs to remind you about what specific parts of the program do. And this is helpful for when you're collaborating with others on a project, or if you're just if you might come back to this like a while from when you first start coding it, and you might have no idea what what you're trying to do there. You don't know how the code works. So by providing notes for yourself and for others, you basically make it so that you can stay organized, which is very important when you're working with a lot of different things in your code. Basically, the more you code and the more you put into a project, the more essential commenting is going to be. You can avoid it, but I personally recommend doing it as much as you can. And I've sort of got an example for this. Abe, if you can go to the tutorial.
I just did. It's on screen now.
So yes, I'll put some code in here. See if you can see here. The first thing is print hello world, and we commented out print goodbye world. When we run the program, you can see that.
Oh wait, it's not showing up. Are you on the right one?
It's the one called tutorial.
Am I on the right
No,
one?
I see it. It's on your end, Abe, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just refreshed. Okay, it's on the screen now.
Okay. Yeah. So you can see that there's 3 things written in there: print hello world, print goodbye world, and print hello again world. When you run the program, you can see that only hello world and hello again world work. And that's because when you comment something out with a hashtag or a multi-line comment with a triple quotation mark, you'll basically make it so that you're telling the computer, don't run this line of code. Don't run these lines of code. So if I were to remove that, then it would print goodbye world to the console. But because you've got the hashtag, you can see that in green that it says goodbye world. And if I were to remove these hashtags, there would be tons of errors and stuff because when you write just regular English, Python doesn't understand it. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that. There's also multi-line comments, which you need to write triple double quotation marks. You need to make sure to do it at the beginning of when you're writing a multi-line comment and at the end of when you're writing a multi-line comment. But yeah, that's about it. I highly recommend taking notes with the comment function, the comment tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the comment tool in your during this class in your own replets. Because of the fact that sometimes like you'll want to go back and take a look at this. Obviously, we're gonna have like these videos back on, but sometimes you might want to like check something real quick. So I'd say it's imperative that you take notes.
Guys, take our word for it. Your code will be very messy, and organization is key when we're working with like multiple functions and objects. Obviously, you'll learn all that later, but commenting is key.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Operators. Oh wait, you're still doing that, right?
Yes, I'm doing operators. And basically, operators are pretty much just used in arithmetic expressions. The plus sign, the minus sign, the asterisk, and the forward slash do what you think they do. Plus is addition. The hyphen is subtraction, which is minus. The asterisk is multiplication, and the forward slash is division. But there's also other operations that you might not have known at first glance. The percent symbol is called modulo, and it basically gives you the remainder that you would get if you divided the numbers from before, like that you put in there. So if you look at the right side of the slides, you can see print 3 modulo 2. It prints out 1 because when you divide 3 by 2, you're left with a remainder of 1. And that's basically what's put into your console. Now, the double asterisk is basically an exponent. So if you look at the right side, it says 3 to the power of 2. It prints out 9. And it's important to remember that these expressions follow PEMDAS, right? So if we go to like Abe, if you were to open the tutorial thing again,
Oh yep. Give me a second.
do you want me to delete the old code or do you want to keep it there?
I don't think it. No, let's keep it there, or well,
Alright.
no, you can delete it. I don't know.
I'll keep it. So here I've
Okay.
got an expression. Print 3 plus 4 double asterisk 2 divided by 2, right? As you can see, if we disregard order of operations here, we're going to get 3 plus 4 is 7, to the power of 2 is 49, divide that by 2, that's going to be 24.5, right? But as you can see, when we run the code, it outputs 11.0, right? That's because of PEMDAS, you're squaring 4 because you have double asterisk means an exponent. You get 16, divide that by 2, that's 8, add 3, you have 11. And this is little examples just to demonstrate that it's important to remember, just like when you're doing real math, that PEMDAS is pretty much the number one thing you need to remember when you're doing like expressions like this.
And use parentheses, of course, right?
Oh yes, yes. And also remember, when you're working with numbers and other data types, do not use the quotes.
The quotes are only for text. Although you could put numbers inside quotes, but it would be treated as text, which we'll talk about this later.
Yes,
It's best not to get ahead of ourselves. Right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. So next we'll have Abe, and he'll be talking about variables.
Before that, do we have any questions with the things we covered so far?
Yeah. We have to wait for like a good 30 seconds for this because of the delay.
Yeah. If you want, you can also go try it out yourselves. No, I don't know what happened to my throat. When you type it doesn't work. Did you hit run? Okay, wait, better than that, can you copy your link and paste it in chat? Okay, so if you ever have a question and you're talking about your code, just link your Replit link in your chat. That's another good reason for using Replit.
You have
that
to
we
press
can see your
invite
code.
first.
What?
You have to
I don't-
press invite first, and then
I think you
it'll
can
Oh,
just-
no. You can just link your code and we can see it.
Yeah.
Or just paste the link to your Replit. You don't have to paste your code.
Yeah. You can just copy and paste the link at the top of your screen. That'll work fine. Just like when you write your question, just make sure to put your Replit link in the chat, just so we don't have to ask you for it again because of the delay.
Should we go on ahead and wait, or
Yeah,
should
it
we wait?
doesn't look like anyone has any questions.
Okay. We'll just be waiting for you to post your link, and then we'll review it
Yes.
after our slide. Let me just move this aside. Okay, now we're talking about variables, and variables are a very important concept in programming. If you're in computer science, not computer science, if you're in Algebra 1, then you've probably heard of variables. And the way I like to think of a variable is it's a box, practically. And in this box, you can store some data. And the data that you can store can be words, it can be numbers, it can be true and false values, and it can even be lists of more than one value. And when you're making a variable, the left side has to be where you name the variable, and basically it can be any combination of alphanumeric characters, except it can't start with a number. So let me just open up the tutorial so I can show you an example. Can I delete this code, or do we still need them? Or I might as well just put it on the bottom.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be creating something called my variable. And you can put a number at the end, but you just can't put a number as the first thing in the variable. And then in order to set this variable to some value, you have to use the equals operator, or not operator, but a symbol. And you would put in some value. So we're putting the hello world text into the variable. We can also put numbers. We can also put true and false. We'll be talking about this stuff later on. But basically, well, when we're saying something equal to it, we're putting this value into the box. And then to get something out of the box, right, if you want to check it to see if it actually exists, you can just do print my variable. Then if you hit this, if you hit run, my variable 1, sorry, not my variable, you should see hello. And so basically what's happening here is you're putting the value into the box, and then here you're printing whatever's in that box. So that's why you're seeing hello on your screen. Now let's get back to this PowerPoint. You can also update variables. So like if you have something in the box, then what if you want to change it? So you can set it equal to a new value. So we could do my variable 1 equals world. So here we're taking hello out of the box and we're putting world into the box. And then if we do print my variable 1, we should say hello, and then on the next line world, because every time you run the print function, it prints it on a new line. It creates a new line. So that's how variables work. And you can have as many variables as you want in your code. You can have my variable 2, and we can set that equal to hi. I don't know. We can name it whatever we want, and then we can set it equal to anything we want. And that's how variables work. And variables are useful when we want to create something that we can change later on in our program. And that's pretty much the use of variables. We'll be using variables throughout our class. And in our examples, we'll be using variables. And let's talk about some other stuff. Data types.
Okay. So now we're going to be talking about data types. And the thing with data types is that
wait, before that, sorry, can we have any questions? And if you have a question, include your Replit link if it involves code. And Encore, did you fix your code? You could also ask us questions on YouTube. Oh, Saharsh, do you we have someone with a question. Should we drag him in?
Oh yeah, do that.
Wait, someone drag him in. Saharsh?
I think he's muted and deafened.
Okay, we'll put him back in questions, and then if he has a question, then he can just type in general, or if he wants us to let him in.
Ankur asked the question in the chat.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Wait. Do variables have to be in the well, they could be anywhere in your code. They can be in the beginning. They could be at the end. They could be anywhere.
But where you reference them is important because
But
if
just
you're
make
using
just make sure you don't define your variable. So okay. This is called defining your variable, and you can only print a variable after you defined it. So if I take this, if I put this before it and I run this, I'll get an error. Because I'm trying to get the box, but the box doesn't exist yet. I only create the box here when I put when I put hello into it. So you need to make sure you create your variables before you use them. That's the only criteria for variables.
Think of it like this.
Oh.
Think of it like this. You can't eat your cake before you make it.
That's true.
Well said.
Any other questions? Oh, he doesn't have. Saharsh doesn't have a question. He just in the questions. Voice channel.
Okay, let's proceed.
Okay, so
Okay, so now we're going to be talking about data types, and this sounds something like completely new, but the thing is, we already kind of explored data types a little bit when we talked about variables in printing. So Abe, if you can open the Replit.
oh yep, of course.
Okay. So I'm going to be typing at the top. So
Oh wait, give it a second. The internet seems to be failed to connect.
is everything showing well on the Replit?
No.
Yeah, I'm getting a similar issue. So
What are you guys?
oh,
Oh,
it
it's
might
saying
be.
saving. Wait. Let me refresh. Something wrong with Replit right now?
Yeah, mine is also
Okay.
working. Okay, yeah. It seems that Replit's having a few
This is a
problems right
bad time.
we're sorry for any. We're
now.
just
Wait,
having
okay,
some
wait,
slight technical
wait. Can we? Sorry. Okay, so after a bit of debate, we decided to use Google Docs. If you want to take notes, please use a piece of paper, or you can make your own Google Doc if you want. But we'll just be writing our code onto here until Replit works. It's working for you now? Oh, okay. Wait. We might not have to do this after all.
Wait, you ready?
No, wait. Replit.
Oh, yeah.
Replit's back on.
Okay.
Replit works?
Yeah.
Ashley?
Wow.
Oh, it does.
Okay.
Whoops. That's awkward.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start my part now.
On Replit. Okay.
Okay, well, Replit works, so
You'll
just
have Replit
continue.
open.
Oh wait, put the new code below the variable code.
You have it open?
Yep, it's on screen.
Okay.
How about Replit
So-
works again?
Now we're gonna be talking about data types, and the thing with data types is that it might sound like a brand new thing to you, but the thing is, you already saw it a bit when we looked at variables in printing. So, as you'll see, let's make a variable, a equals word, and this shouldn't look entirely new because we've already seen this variables. So this part right here, this is called a string. We're going to look more specifically at what a string is soon, but just know that this is the data. This is the data when we're talking about the data type. And let's print something. So we're going to print text. This is the data type as well. So you can print data types, you can assign them to variables. Abe, if you can go back to the slides.
Yep.
So
Wait.
with data types, you can perform different operations, and some data types will have specific operations that are exclusive to that. So you can't divide a string, but you can divide a number. So that's an example of an exclusive operation. And printing will be especially useful with all of the data types. So you can test your code and debug, as we discussed before. So you can print any data type. It doesn't have to be a string, and we'll show that in a bit. But if you can move on to strings now.
Sure.
Okay, so strings can store text, and they can also store numbers, but they're different. So I'll explain that if you can go to Replit again.
Yep.
Okay, so you see a equals word, right? We're going to change that to 3. So then we're going to make another variable b, and we're going to make that just the number 3. Let's try printing a, and then we're also going to print b, and let's see what we see. So they look the same, right? But there's a lot of differences with these, and that has to do with when we said how there's some exclusive operations. So we're going to try something where we add a we're gonna add the strings 3 and 3. See what happens. It becomes 3 3. It doesn't add it like a number because the code doesn't know that it's actually. It doesn't know that it's a number. It doesn't know that it's representing it. But if we try doing b plus b, which are both numbers, make that. It's going to be 6 because it does know that they're a number. So if you could go back to the slides again. So there's
Wait, just one more
when
thing.
using strings.
I would like to add one more thing. You can add. Let me just go back onto the Replit. Here's a potential error that you might make. You can never do. You can't add numbers and strings together because you get this error. I don't know if you were going to mention that. I just wanted to mention that.
We're gonna talk about that next class, casting.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah,
the
we're going to
solution
show you
as
how to-
casting, which we'll talk about next class.
Okay, so with the string slide, there is when making, as you saw with the different variables, one worked as a string and one worked as a number, and that was because the quotation marks. And if you go back to the Replit now quickly,
Yep.
if we have, let's make another variable c, and then we can use single quotes with this. So either double quotes or single quotes will work, but something you can't do is combine single and double quotes for the same declaration. So if we try to make it a double quote and a single quote, it won't work. It's going to error. And that's because whatever it starts with, it has to end with. So that's important. And if you can go back to the slide, it'll say it says that you can set it with variables. We've seen that with A and C before. So if you can move to the strings continued slide.
Yep.
So we just showed concatenation when we added those 2 3s. But something you can also do with strings is multiplication. Go back to the replit. So let's try multiplying a number. We'll do 2.
Could we rename the variable a to string?
Yeah.
So that it's easier. And then we'll create.
Okay, so when you multiply a string, you're going to get 2 of them, like as we showed before. But if you try to multiply our variable number by 2, you're going to get 6, like before, because they have specific operations and they're being treated in different ways. It doesn't know that the number 3, like the string 3, is representing a number. So if you can go to the integers float slide.
Yeah.
Okay, so the data type doesn't have to represent a string. You saw before a little bit.
Oh wait, sorry. Can we slow down? I think we have some questions. Does it matter if the quotations? Oh, we just answered that question, but well, okay. Just make sure that you use the same on both sides. You can't have double on one end and single on the other end, but otherwise.
It's a preference thing, really.
Yes. Also, remember if you're using single or double quotes in your text, like let's say you want to use a contraction, right? In order to not mess up the code, there's 2 things you can do. Like we'll talk about the second thing in another class, but the first thing that you can do is you can change your like the outer quotations. Like if you want to do a contraction, right, you can change the outer quotations to double quotes instead of single quotes. And then you won't have to worry about the string ending early.
Here's an example on screen. Since you want to put a single quote in here, you can put double quotes on the outside so that it disregards the single quote.
Oh yeah, show what happens if you use single quotes.
Yeah. If you use single quotes, then it stops here. It thinks this is the string, and then it gets lost on what this is. So, and also you can use this for quotation marks. If you have a quote in your sentence, then you can do. You can have quotes in your sentence, and this would be a valid string, even though you have this other string inside it. This is a string, so that's the use of using double and single, and that's when it would matter. But what if you want to use double and single? We'll be talking in like the same string, and it's super complex. We'll be talking about that next class, or not next class, maybe on the 3rd day.
I think it's the end of the 2nd day.
Oh yeah. Okay, back to the integers and floats. Or do we have any other questions before that?
No, actually, it's the end of the 3rd day. So yeah, it's later on in the class that we'll talk about it.
So are strings just variables without? Okay, the difference between, well, in terms of syntax, in terms of what you type, yes, but a variable is, you have to think of a variable as a box, but a string is more of a data, so it's more of like what you put inside a box. So
a variable can be a string, but
in terms of like
variables, a variable is like a general term, like overall. Strings are kind of like
no, that's not
different.
Wait. Strings are a data type. Variables are variables. It's a concept in programming, but strings are also a concept in programming, but it's a data type. Do you kind of understand that? But I think you're talking about like in terms of code, in terms of how the code looks. Yeah, it's just a string. A string is just a variable with quotes. But that generalization it misses a lot of details. Yeah, Aditya, we realized that a while back. But thank you for the heads up. We are using Replit. Okay, let's go back to or we can wait for a few more questions. No one's been on Discord so far. I think that means we don't have any more questions. I think it's been over 30 seconds. So let's go back to round 8 to do some quotes.
We've previously seen data types with strings, and we compared the differences between just regular numbers and strings. But now we're going to be looking at the difference between whole numbers and decimals. So integers are what is referred to as whole numbers, and it's no longer an integer once it's no longer a whole number. And you can switch between a whole number and a float.
We actually do have a few questions. What are data types? Well, data types are forms of data, pretty much. You can store different types of data in variables, but they're not interchangeable. You have to have if you're talking about if you're talking about you can do. Oh my God. You can't do that. You have to have the variable on the left side and the data type on the right side. Data types are forms of data. So integers, numbers are data types. Strings are data types. We'll talk about lists and stuff like that, which are other data types. And they're just forms of the ways we represent data, pretty much. So the strings are a data type that stores text. Numbers are a data type that stores, numbers. And we were talking about the different types of numbers. We have 2 different data types for numbers, and I'm sorry for interrupting again, but.
Okay. So, so once you change an integer to a float, it's no longer an integer, and it has decimals now. So if you can open up Replit quickly. So let's see what happens when you perform an operation between a float and an integer. So we have whole number equals 3, and then we have decimal equals 3.0. So if I showed you both of these numbers, you would probably say they're the same, right? And they are the same in terms of like how large they are, but these get different methods and operations with which you can use them with.
And that's another thing about data types. You can do certain operations in certain types of data, which we talked about earlier. You can, when you add 2 numbers, you get the sum of those numbers, but when you add 2 strings, you pretty much combine those strings. So the way operations work depend on the type of data. And Arjun just pasted in the definition of data types from Google. I don't know if he's pasted in from Google. Types of information you can store. Yeah.
So with the Replit, so if you add, let's print what happens if you add the whole number with the decimal. We're gonna see what happens. You get 6.0. So you added a whole number and a decimal, but it became a decimal, and that's because it has like a higher precision. There's more to it. You're gonna lose data a lot of the time. In this example, you didn't lose data, but let's see what happens if you do.
Okay, wait. We'll answer questions like after every slide, so that we don't have to keep interrupting you.
Yeah. So sorry about this, Dan, but we have a question.
Wait, I thought we were gonna talk about it after he started.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
No, just answer. It's
okay.
Okay. So, can you do anything without data types, or are they needed for everything?
Type. Well, okay.
Data types, basically, I'd say they are needed for everything. They're one of the more important things in coding. They're one of the basics. Like, you can't ignore data types. Like you're gonna use them like every time you're doing it. You're
Like if you think
coding
about it,
something.
even from our basic print function that we said hello world is strings. Even right from the beginning, we've been using data types. So to answer your question, no, not really.
In programming, we fundamentally what we're doing is we're just manipulating data, and when and data, there are different types of data, so it's fundamentally different data types. You know,
Hmm.
it's like asking like if you think of the okay, I don't know if this example works. It's like saying, can you use English without nouns? I mean, or can you speak sentences without nouns? Because sentences
Maybe
comprise of
not
words,
now.
and if we think of words as data, then and then nouns are different types of data, right? Or different words. I don't know if this
Maybe not nouns, because like nouns is like a data type. Like I'd say nouns is like comparable strings, like what you can call it, strings.
yeah.
Like if you could do the English language without nouns, adjectives, like verbs, adverbs, and all that stuff. Like you couldn't like could you make sentences without those?
I mean,
Maybe,
yeah.
but not really. Like you wouldn't you really couldn't because you couldn't have anything as your subject. You couldn't have anything as your verb. There'd be nothing to have them agree.
Yeah, so
It's like
all right. So in summary, data types are pretty important to programming, and you should probably know them. Okay, so from now on, like, we'll answer questions at the end of like every topic, so that we
Okay.
don't have to keep interrupting you. Okay.
yeah.
So with this, right? So we printed 6.2 after we added the decimal and the whole number. And if you're wondering, well, why does it become a decimal instead of an integer when you add them? Think about it this way: if we made this an integer, then we would be losing data. It would just become 6. But if we had the decimal, then we keep all of the data. So that's a reason. And if you want to, there are ways to make it so that you can keep it as an integer when you add it. But when you print it, it chooses the decimal. And if you can go to the slides for Booleans.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, just
Booleans.
give me one sec. So it chooses the decimal because it has a higher just to add on.
Has high precision. Precision, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so with Booleans, they're a value that only has two possible values, true or false.
Oh
And
wait,
it's used
sorry.
to
I'm
represent
not
a condition.
okay. Oh, oops. What happened here? Booleans. Sorry. Yeah, we're on booleans.
You ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it represents two possible values, true or false, and it represents condition, and they're used with if statements, which we'll learn tomorrow. And in the example, you can see that you can set it to false, and it'll print false. But I want to show you the difference between a boolean and a string. If you can open Replit.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just get rid of all of this. So we have true. Okay, true
Oh, it's capital
or
T. Oh, okay. Sorry.
false equals true. Okay, so that's a boolean right there. But let's say we make a string too. So word equals true. So again, when we printed, remember when we printed the number in the string, they printed the same thing. If we print the true or false, and then we print word, they're going to look the same.
Oh,
But the thing with these is that they're used in different ways, and they're completely different in some situations. Like when we learn the if statements, while loops, they're going to be used in a way that strings cannot be that way. The compiler doesn't know that the string is representing true or false. It's basically, you get two options. It's like having to choose between 0 and 1. There's no in between, like when you do if you count from 0 to 100. And that's pretty much it with Booleans.
no, okay. Are we ready to move on to? Oh, no, let's wait for questions because this is the best time to wait for questions. If you want to try out some code for yourself, do we want to give them a task? Wait, I have an idea. Okay, so here's a task that you guys can do. So I'm gonna create two variables. So I created not word, world. I created two variables right here, and we talked about concatenation earlier, right? Do you guys remember what that is? Where you merge two strings together if you add them. And I'm not. Can you show the list slide? Oh no, we haven't gone there yet.
We're not on list yet.
Yeah, this is just question time for everything we covered so far. So okay, so the goal of your assignment right now is to like combine these two. Okay, I want you to produce the output. I want you to produce this output in the console using these two variables. You can't just like put this in the string and then print that out. You need to find a way to combine these two variables. And oh yeah, you can add the space there if you want, or you have to. But, and you want to print this out into your console. You want this to be over here. And if you do that, please link your. If you do that, then please link your Replit in the chat so that we can show you some. We can see some examples. See if you guys are getting the material.
Oh, we have a question. Can you show the list slide?
Oh yeah, but we haven't gone there yet.
Yeah. We haven't gotten to lists yet.
Oh, I think he means last slide.
Oh, last slide? Do you mean the Boolean slide? Okay, wait. What should we put like a timer on the clock to see to give you guys some time to do it?
I mean, if they're doing it.
I hope you guys are all doing it. So we'll give you. Is 2 minutes a good fair amount of time? Okay, we'll give you guys 2 minutes. Okay. No. Okay, we can't show you the slide yet because we haven't gone there that far yet. Well, we'll talk about it in a second after you guys do this thing. Okay, one avatar 007. You got the link? Oh wait, did you paste the link?
It's not there.
Oh wait, does YouTube automatically delete the links? Does anyone know that? Does anyone know if they do that?
Do they what?
Do they automatically delete links if you post them in chat or?
No. I posted the Replit link in the beginning.
But you're a mod. Are you a mod?
No, Vishman is not a mod.
Okay, so you should be able to paste links.
Oh no, we have a question. Does integer plus integer equal decimal?
No, integer plus integer will always be an integer.
It's only if you specify that it's integer plus decimal.
Okay, here we go. Integer plus integer equals integer. Decimal plus decimal equals decimal. And then integer plus decimal equals decimal. Oh, we just talked about it then.
Are you muted?
Okay. The timer's up. So do we have any submissions? Oh no. Okay, sorry. What happened to the slides? Did I lose the slides? Okay, never mind. Paste your uplets, guys. Yeah, copy and paste the links to your uploads.
Even if it's not working properly, just send what you have so we can go over it.
It's fine, yeah, but it's better than nothing. So
Yeah,
at least then
we
we
just
can help
want
you.
one person, at least one person submitted. You know, please don't fail us, guys. Are you guys having trouble doing it, or is it Deeth is talking about it, learning how you can copy and paste it. I think I got it. Okay, will it take a little bit more time? Oh wait, I think it.
It might automatically delete.
Oh no, is that's gonna be a problem? You just posted? Oh, it does not. Wait, what if you include it in your Wait, how many of you are on the Discord? If you're whoever's on the Discord, just post a link on the Discord.
Aditya is saying he got one of the links.
We got it? Where?
I don't know. He got it somehow.
Aditya, put it in the chat.
Send the link of your upload.
Oh, okay, he didn't actually get it. Okay, never mind. Okay, wait, the problem... Okay, wait, so whoever's on the Discord, can you just send your link on in general in Discord? Because it seems to be a problem with YouTube, I think. That might be the problem, because we're not seeing anything.
Alright, maybe we should just show the solution then, and then...
Yeah,
I can compare
but if you got it, then if you think you have it, then you can just correct it. Okay, so here's the solution that we got, and we got hello world 3 times. Hello world, hello world. Okay, we got a bunch of submissions. So
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so let's look at Encore submission. Well, that's one way of doing it. Image. I don't know why you put image on the bottom. Oh no.
If you delete that, it'll compile.
No, Replit, please stop. Please don't break up. Please don't break down.
Yep, Anisha seems fine as well.
If you take out image, then this should run. Yeah, works pretty good. But you had to you did add it like a bunch of times together. Do we have any other submissions?
Yep. I think.
Oh wait,
so we've got.
Is it in chat?
Yeah, they're sending them in general.
Oh
so,
yeah.
Oh okay. Oh yeah.
Saharsh
Whoa,
is fine.
we have a lot of them. So, okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Just check a few and then.
Anish, Saharsh, you guys are good, I think.
Yep.
Well, according to you.
Tempesty, I think he's good, right?
Even what's the name?
Comments. Hello world.
Encore, you're good.
Seems that I think we all got it, but there's another way of doing it. I think most of you did addition, but you could have also multiplied it, because essentially when you're doing hello plus world, you're creating hello world, and then we're also adding this here since we want to create a space at the end. So ultimately, what this is doing right here is it's creating the string hello world. And then by multiplying this by 3, we are duplicating this, and we're duplicating the inside content. We're pasting it 3 times, and then we're putting that to the console. So I think we got. I'm pretty sure almost everyone got it. So that means that you guys are following along. So that's pretty good. So on to lists, I guess. Unless we have any other questions. Arnav just posted his solution. Are you guys having fun so far?
Arnav's looks fine.
Okay, let's move on to lists.
Yep.
Okay.
So how much list we
So-
go?
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to lists, which get another data. So basically, a list is a mutable collection of objects that are in a sequence. Now, mutable just means changeable. You can add things to. You can remove. You can replace. It's
Think
not
like a mutation, basically.
Oh, how
Yeah,
to,
you
wait. Sorry, wait. How to multiply? Did we not talk? Oh, okay, wait.
We didn't talk about multiplying strings.
Uh,
if I remember.
Did we forget? If we do hello, and we do times 4, we're basically copying this, and then we're just repeating it, 3 times. Or repeating 4 times. Hello. And multiplying using numbers is the same thing. You just do 4 times 4. That's 16. That's how multiplication works. Did that answer your question? Oh no, I closed that tutorial thing.
Are there any more questions? Or
The asterisk is the multiplication operator basically. So no more questions? Okay, let's... Oops, okay, so this is all the questions we have for until the end of lists. Okay, let's start the lists, guys.
Okay, so I'll say it again. A list is basically a mutable collection of objects or sequence. Now, when I say mutable, I just mean changeable. You can add things to lists. You can remove things. You can replace objects that are already in the list and replace them with other ones. So what I mean by mutable is just changeable. It's so you can mutate it. Now, specifically, when I say a collection of objects in lists in Python are known as items, okay? Now, these items in lists can be of any data type. They can be integers, strings, booleans, and they can even be lists of other objects. Okay, and now just a little comparison. So if you remember, when we wanted to use strings, we needed to implement them by using quotation marks, single or double, depending on the scenario. And just like that, all items in a list must be inside square brackets. Now, if you look at the picture right beneath, so you can see that I've created a variable called list1. This variable could be named anything, but I've called it list1. And you can see the square bracket. That's how you implement a list. And inside inside the list, I've just stated a few different items. So like I said, they can be of any data type. So you can see I have a name. So there's Matthew, okay? Then we have the number 20, which is an integer. Then we have Boolean, true, 23, and so on. So I just have a list of 6 different items. Okay, so when we use the print function to state that said list, you could see that on the right image, you could see what you get if you hit run in the console. So it would just return back to you everything that was in that list. Okay? So that's the basic idea of lists. And next I want to move on to a pretty important topic called indexing.
Oh, before that, do we want to show them an example of listed code?
Show them what?
Do you want to show them the code? How to make one? Or
of a list? Okay, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay,
you can
so
just...
I'll just do exactly what. So it's a very simple process. So again, like we're naming a variable, you could be naming your variable anything. Okay. So for the purposes of this, I'm just gonna call it list1. Okay, list1, and you got to use the equal symbol. And like I said before, to implement a list, you have to use square brackets. So I'm just gonna put in square brackets, and also, like in a list, you could be implementing any data type. So this could be a list of all names or all integers. But for this example, I'm just gonna show you a mix. So I'm just gonna say, okay, so here's the first item. So I can just do something like this. So Dave is the first item. Then my second item can be the Boolean value false.
Are you typing? Because we're not seeing it.
I am typing. So it's saving.
No.
It was saying you were leaving and joining, so I think you're on your end.
No, it might be your internet. Yeah, it says 4 out of 5. we all seem to be in it. But basically, or well, I can just explain it this screen. This is the first element. This is second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and you can have this can be of any size. It can be you can have any value you want it to have, right? That's just what I wanted to show them. You can continue on.
Yeah, my thing's lagging.
No.
What?
Okay. Well, on to indexing then, I guess.
I can't type though.
That's fine.
Sorry, just give me a second.
It might be internet connection, so let's just move on for now. Wait,
Alright, it worked. Okay. So you finished that. Okay. So that's good. Can you see me now?
Yeah, we can see in the code.
Okay. So now let's move on to indexing. Okay, so indexing is a really simple concept. Okay, it's basically storing letters / numbers. Now this requires like counting, but it's a little different from the traditional way of counting. When we count we starting from number 1. So the first object is 1, second object is 2, so on and so forth. However, in indexing in all the coding languages, the first letter item is always 0. So the first item or object in the list will be at index position 0. Okay, and each box in the array is treated as a variable. And similar to how we create lists, indexes are also implemented by using square brackets, and we can see an example on the next slide. If you can go to the replit.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to create 2 different variables. Okay, one variable is going to be a phrase, and I'm just going to give a phrase. Okay, so cats are not mammals. Okay.
But they are.
Regardless, for the scenario of this, they're not mammals. Okay, so that's just a string. And then now I'm also going to create a list. Okay, again, the variable name could be anything. I'm just going to call this friends. Okay, so we have list friends. Again, so to implement a list, we have to use square brackets, and then in the square brackets, I'm just going to put the names of certain friends. So we have, let's say we have Jerry, Maria, Mark. Let's have a Dave and Susie. Okay, so we have a list of friends, 5 names. Okay, so what I want to do here is I'll show you how indexing really works. It works a little bit different list. Okay, so I'll just show you an example with the string phrase first. So I'm going to be using the print function. So now what I want to do is I'm using the string phrase, so I'll be using that. And to implement indexing, we have to use square brackets. So I'm just going to put square brackets in like that. And so remember what I said, the first index, the index 0 will always print out the first character or item, depending on whether you're using a list or a string. In the case of a string, it will print out the first letter. So if I were to say print phrase square bracket 0, and I were to hit run, it will print out the letter C because that's the first letter in the word cats. However, if I were to do the same thing and I were to do print friends, now if I were to just do the same thing, friends square bracket 0, this would print out the name Jerry, because as you can see, Jerry is the first item in the list friends. Okay, and so on and so forth. So if I were to change this phrase, say the letter print phrase square bracket 10, this would print out O, and specifically the O in the word not. And similarly, if I were to do friend square bracket like 3, it should print out Dave because Dave is the 4th element in the list, and remember 0 is always the first element. So.
And also, by the way, if you just typed in some random giant number, you would get an error. So
yeah, that's important.
So
as long as you're in the range of how many ever elements you have in that list or phrase.
So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. So 4 would be the last element in this array. So you can't have a number greater than 4 indexed since you don't have that many elements. Continue, sorry.
Okay. Abhay, can you continue the next slide?
Sorry, yeah, okay. Yep.
Okay, is it good? Okay, just a little bit more about indexing. So in addition to finding an item or letter from a specified index, we can also do the exact reverse, and that is finding the index of an item, letter, or even string. So before we took we took an index and we tried to find what value or string or letter associated with that in the specified string or list. Now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to take a element or letter from the string or list, and we're going to find the index that is associated with that. So again, we're gonna go back right into the replit, Abai, if you could.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna just do the same thing. Okay, so we're gonna have it's still our same phrase. Cats are not mammals, and friends. We still have the same 5 list of friends, but here we're gonna try something else. We're gonna use we're gonna use again the print function, and I'll first show you how it works in phrases. So we're gonna be using what's called the dot index function. Okay, and by using the dot index function, you could specify a single character that you want to find. So say I wanted to find the letter T in the string phrase, okay? So if I click run, this will give me the number 2, which is the index position of the first time the character appears in the string. So notice how it's not giving me the T in not, but rather the T in cats, because that's the first word that appears. Now, similar to this, you could also do entire words. So if I wanted to figure out what the index is of the word R, if I click run, it should give me 5, because the word R starts at index position 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So it works a little bit differently, but still kind of the same for a list. So if I were to do print, then I would use the friends, and that same, we're still using the dot index function. So we would do so the way why it works differently in a list versus a string is because in a string we're talking about characters, specifically letters. Okay. However, characters are included as spaces, punctuation, uppercase, lowercase, all of that stuff. However, in a list, we're not talking about characters. We're talking about items in the list. So specifically, I could say, let's find friends that I want to find the index of, say, Maria. Okay, so the way you would read the sentence is, I want to print the index of Maria in the list friends, of course, should it exist. Okay, so if I click run, it should give me 1, because Maria is the second item in the list, and remember that 0 is always first. Okay, however, if I were to put a name that were not in here, so say I wanted to find the index position of Steve. Steve is not in the list, so this will result in an error, and it'll even say Steve is not in the list, telling you that there is no index position for it. Okay, and if we go back to the slide, this will tell you exactly what we're trying to do. So it says by using the .index function, we can find the indices of specific items in a list. And in the above example, we're basically trying to find the index of the item Maria in the list friends, should it exist. Okay? And remember, we tried to do Steve, but there is no Steve in the list friends, so that means we got an error saying Steve is not in the list. So be sure you check out for that. Moving on, don't worry, this is our last topic for the day. So we have the length function, okay? So the length function can be used to find the amount of items in a list, okay? It can also be used to find the number of characters in a string, and this is important, okay? So characters and letters are not the same thing. Characters include spaces, punctuation, capitalized letters, all of that. Letters are only the specific letters, not including space and punctuation, okay? Now, I can show you how this works if we can go back to the replit, Albay.
The replit. Yep. Oops.
Okay. So again, we're still.
Yep. Sounds great.
Okay. Again, we're still using the same phrase cats and same 5 friends. Okay, and we're still using the same print function. Okay. So we'll again, like always, we'll start with the phrase. Okay. So if I wanted to find how many characters are in the string phrase, I would use again the print function, and then we'd use the given len function. So we'd len and then open and close parenthesis. Okay, and inside the parenthesis we just pass in the name of the string. So in this case, the name of our string, which is associated with the variable phrase, so we would just put in the name phrase. And if we were to click run, print length of phrase, and it would return the number 21. Now what does this mean? This tells us that there are 21 characters in the phrase cats are not mammals. Again, remember, this includes spaces and punctuation. And if you were to count out, you would indeed find that there are 21 characters. And a similar thing would occur if we were to if we tried to do this with lists. Okay, so again, same thing as always, using the print function. We're still using the same length function, but this time let's pass in the variable friends. Okay, now again, like I've been saying throughout the course of me explaining lists and indexes, when you're speaking in terms of string, you're always going to get something back that's talking about letters and characters. However, when you're talking in the terms of lists, you will always get back items. So in this case, the print length function of friends will return how many different elements there are in the list friends. So again, you would read the third line of code as, I want you to print how many characters are in the string phrase. And the fourth line of code would be read as, I want you to print the amount of items in the list friends. Now if I click run here, now you can see that there are 21 characters in the string phrase, and there are 5 elements in the list friends. So that's just a little bit of an introduction into indexing, lists, and length, and this will definitely come in handy when we're going over how to make our tic-tac-toe game in day 3 and 4. So yeah.
Any questions in the chat or on Discord? We're not getting many Discord questions.
Yeah, guys. Please feel free to ask questions. I know this is a bit of a topic, guys. It's kind of hard to learn coding in a few hours, so please reach out. You can ask us to repeat slides if we're talking too fast. Anything.
Oh, actually, should we show them 2 more methods that would be useful with lists?
Like what?
Append and pop, because I have a cool assignment in mind for them that we could use.
Yeah.
So I can do it if you want.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so let's just create a list 1. Oh wait, by the way, I don't think we'd mentioned this before, but if I create a variable called index excludes punctuation and len includes punctuation, right? What do you mean by punctuation?
Like periods and stuff.
Period. Well,
index does include it.
Well, if this was our list, then if you wanted to get the index of something, you would just do list 1 and then the index. So 0 would be hey. But if you wanted to find the length of the list, then you would do length list 1. And I guess by punctuation, I don't know if you mean this, but like here you're using this is a function, so you're using parentheses. We'll talk way more about this, I think, on the 3rd day, but
yeah.
So here we're using parentheses, and then when we're talking about the indexing, we're talking about the variable name of the variable with the list, and then square brackets, the index, and then the other square bracket. And then what other questions do we have? The difference between functions versus data types. We didn't even cover functions yet, so it's going to be kind of difficult to talk about right now.
Don't worry about that right now.
Functions are things that take in an input and produce an output, while data types are forms of data. But wait, like I was saying before, just a quick
How about pop and
Oh yeah. Before that, if I had another variable, then if I put the variable inside the list, let me print the list. See the value of the variable that's inside the list. So if we did this, right, and then we can even set, and then we changed and then we changed my var to something like this, and then we printed this out again. it doesn't change, and that's because the variable just dumps the value into the list. It doesn't dump the variable. It's not in the list. The value of the variable is in the list. So when we change the value of the variable here, we're not changing the value of the variable or the value in the second position in the list over here. We're just changing the value of the variable. Wait, what is true?
So yeah, so what does the true do in the list? So we're storing multiple. It's basically just there to show that you can store.
Yeah, you can store anything. You can store false. You can store false. You can store 1,000. You can that's not 1,000, but you can store 1.99999. You know, you can store a bunch of different things in.
Yeah, so it's just to show off what you can store. You can store in strings, booleans. You can store. This is a float variable. It's an integer. This is a decimal. Yeah, basically you can store anything in a list, pretty much any of the data types. That's all it is.
Sorry, wait, how do you write an index? So an index, if you want to, are you talking about getting the value for at the index, or are you talking about finding the index of the value? Well, I guess we'll just cover them both, I guess.
Either way, you have to use square brackets.
Yeah. No. Wait, no. List. If you want to get the value at index 2, right? Which is my var, which would be 10, because 1. I mean 2. 2. Then this is how you get, or list 1. This is how indexes work. So you put the variable of the list, and then you would put the square brackets. And then in those square brackets you would put the index that you want to get. And if I print this out, it should be 10, right? And if you're talking about like you getting the index of 10 in the array, if you want to get 2, then you would do dot index and then 10. So this would print out the first occurrence in 10 of 10 in this list. So if we had a bunch of 10s at the end, it would still print out 2, because that's the first occurrence of 10 in the array. Did you get that, Saharsh? And everyone else we answered questions for?
Guys, please, I want to add the dot, like I already said, I just want to add a little.
The dot.
The dot index function and the index topic are two very different things. Obviously, other than just square bracket.
If you want to be super specific, this is a method because you're calling it of an object. But we'll talk about that later. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. But we'll talk about more about functions in future classes.
The dot index function, just to recap, if you guys didn't understand, the dot index function, which is the dot index parenthesis, is used to find a specific value at an index. But the dot index, the dot index function is used to find the index of a certain item in a list or character in a string. But the index square bracket is used to find the opposite. So you should pass in an index and it will return the item at that index.
Could you go over lists again? So a list is a data type, right? But you can put multiple things in a list. So if you think of a list as like a series of boxes, so in essence, it's pretty much it's a list of variables kind of, and we're storing these lists of variables in another variable kind of. So like basically we're storing hey as the 0th thing in the list, that we're storing true as the first thing in the list, the myvar or the value of myvar in the second position in the list, and so on, you know. So lists are basically data types that can contain more than one value. And I don't know if did we go over this, but like you can even change the values in lists. So say I want to change
oh yeah, sure.
If I want to change this value to a false, then I can set that equal to false, just like I would treat any other variable, right? I'm updating the first position, the index 1 of the list. And if I print out list 1, then you see false here, because basically this list is pretty much like a sequence of variables, and each of these variables itself contains a data type, and you can have as many variables as you want, or as many positions in this list as you want. Did you kind of get that better this time, or should I could try to explain it in a different way? and also another reason that we're not like if you type out list, right, and it highlights, that's because there's a function called list, and it's better if you don't name something list because you're overriding the function. And I don't want to talk about this right now, but like just as a heads up, just don't name anything list. I don't name a
Yes.
variable list.
Yes, if you can explain it a different way.
Does anyone else want to try? I mean,
Okay, so wait, what was the question? Okay, so the question was, okay, could you go over lists again? What specific parts of list? They're like overall or just how to update them?
what is the list like fundamentally?
Oh, okay. So a list is just a collection of values.
That's what I said.
Okay, so if you could go back to the slide, I mean, I don't, maybe you just didn't see it enough. I don't know. It has a pretty good definition. A list is basically a collection of
I don't know.
objects.
The definition on the side's kind of confusing.
Okay, okay, fine. Without
Okay,
that,
wait.
fine.
Let me see if I have paint.
It's
Okay.
okay.
Oh.
Anchor, basically, a list is a collection of different values. Okay, and these values.
Or I can give
are,
a visual explanation. So okay, so say this is a list, right? And in this list we have different boxes. And in these boxes you can put different things. You can put 7, you can put 7.7, you could put the letter H, you can put true. I don't want to type it true, but that says true, okay. So, and this is a list. It contains different variables inside it pretty much. It contains different values inside it. And technically you could add things to this list, which we didn't cover yet, but this list can be of unlimited size. It can have one item in it. It can have one box in it. It can have 1,000 boxes in it. It depends on what we set it as, and we can add to it later on after we create it. And basically, we store this list inside a variable, and it's a variable itself is like a bigger box kind of. But if I draw another box here, it might get kind of confusing. But this is what a list is fundamentally. This thing. It's a bunch of boxes.
Anchor, it would be like if you made a grocery list. If you made a grocery list, what would be on the list, right? It would be different ones, right? So you'd have your bananas. You'd just have a list of different like objects. So think about it like that, but for there's just different types of words you could, like so you
Like,
can there are different.
think of the different data types as like different types of foods. You need some vegetables. Vegetables can be your strings. Like fruits can be your integers. Like maybe like
Your frozens can be your booleans.
yeah, and like your dairy can be your just
List.
yeah, just like
Okay.
anything in your list
Yeah.
can just data types. Just they go in there.
Better or more confusing? Let us know.
We are going over time, so I was going to talk about a few additional things, but we'll just keep that for next class. We said we would end at 6:30, but if you guys have any questions, then you can ask us.
Yes, please feel free to ask us more questions in the Discord.
Discord
Yeah.
or on stream. We'll keep the stream open for a few more minutes, I think.
Yeah, but if you want us, we'll be checking the Discord more often. So please.
Yeah,
post
we'll
in
be checking the
general chat.
Discord pretty much the entire day, so if you
Yeah.
ever have any questions
So,
throughout the day, then you can just ask
Between now and tomorrow at 5 o'clock, if you have any questions, just ask us. One of us will try and help you out.
I was going to give you guys the practice problem, but I guess we can keep that for next class. Oh, wait.
But-
you might want to give it to them just so we have it.
we
Ready for
were
next class.
we were gonna
We're already
talk
over
about,
time. Just save it for next class.
Yeah, save
There-
next class. Oh wait, there's what happened to
Give them the
slides?
assignment.
Where are the slides? Wait, here it is. Okay. Yeah, here's an exit ticket that we made. Can we paste this? Oh no.
I'll do it.
Okay. Can you guys do this? It's kind of like homework, I guess.
So just copy that link into your browser, and it's very short, nothing too.
And it's basically finding the way to create
strenuous.
square roots in Python.
And this is kind of like something to get ahead a little bit. There are two different ways to take the square root of a variable, and we just want you to kind of get a head start on that and see if you guys can figure it out before we teach it to you. And have your answers ready by next class, or just submit the survey, and then we can check our answers from online that way.
Any other questions? Oh wait, Saharsh gave an explanation of lists. A list is like a place to store values, so while you're writing a program, it could store multiple interchangeable pieces of information for the whole program. Yeah, that's true. That's what lists are.
Good explanation.
We'll be talking more about lists next class. Originally, we planned to talk about lists next class, but we decided to put it in today anyway. We'll be talking a bunch more because it's very important. Lists are very important in programming. It's a very important data type that you'll be using. Needs permission.
Why did you make it? Did you make it public?
I didn't make the. Who made the exit ticket here?
Daniel, did you make it public?
Let me see.
And even if you can't, even if you can't access it, we actually did post a picture of it on the exit ticket slide. So if you guys want to,
okay, it was restricted to Monroe accounts, so now it's work.
Oh, it's restricted to Monroe accounts.
Okay,
yeah. Now it's not.
It.
Okay. So, can you see it now? No, but by the way, guys, did you have fun today? Did you learn something?
And guys, just remember, this is just. I know this is all really boring and stuff, but this is just the fundamental stuff that we need to get out of the way before we can get into the tic-tac-toe activity, and that's pretty fun.
Oh wait, we didn't show them the tic-tac-toe game we made.
It's fine.
Yeah, we can show.
Yeah, okay.
Either tomorrow or the day.
Oh no, wait, I just want to show them it real quick. We can show it again tomorrow.
Yeah, we're already over time. Don't worry about it.
We do have 70 people here watching, so.
Oh yeah. Okay, they said they can access it still.
Okay. You don't have to worry about the code right now, but here is how it works. Alright. So it shows you this thing. This is your tic-tac-toe board, and it says player X. Where do you want to be placed? And you would type in where you want to be placed. So you type in 1, and then it asks the next player O where he would be placed. It would put X. It would print out that the board with X in the position that you told to place it in. And then say we want to place O in 5. Then X, where does X want to be placed? Let's just say 7. And O doesn't really know here, so he's going to say 6. But then X wins because he can just do 4. And it says player X has won the game because it's X, X, X. So that's a column. Where did Ethan Modi go? I don't know. So are you guys hyped for this tic-tac-toe game we're going to be making? It's going to be really fun. You can show your families.
Okay, guys, I think that's it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for coming to day one.
Just any more questions? We'll end the stream in 2 minutes, or should we end it now?
Yeah, let's end it. We're already 11 minutes over.
11 minutes
okay.
over.
Thank you guys for coming to day one, and stay tuned. We're going to keep your notifications on, and it'll tell you when stream live tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.